Well, the plan for the day was to take the mystery tackle box out on the lake and fish the baits that I told you I was going to fish and catch the fish on them, show you how to catch them, and just explain the technique with each one of those particular baits. Well, the fish had a different plan in mind. I missed 2 fish on the chatterbait. Oh, I had one I missed him. Oh, I had one I missed him. Oh, I had one. I had one I missed him. Oh, I had one. I had one I missed him. Which were, I don't know how big they were. One of them looked like it was a decent fish, but no bites at all on the jerk bait. No bites at all on the flick it bait, the flick and shake. And I only caught one today. You know, I spent about 6 hours out on the water and caught one fish. Had to resort to extreme measures really to catch that one fish. But I hate to leave the lake with a skunk. Oh man, it's like getting the monkey on your back and you can't get him off once you get a skunk. You start doubting yourself, confidence goes down, you know, you start switching baits 5 seconds at a time. You know, I'm not catching anything for a long frustration sets in, you go home mad. But what we're gonna do is, you know, we're gonna continue on with the mystery tackle box deal. We're gonna take those baits, we're gonna fish them again and again and again until I can actually catch some fish on them. The jerk bait, I don't know about that thing. It does not have a fantastic action on it. It casts halfway decently. I've got other jerk baits that cast better than that one, honestly. You know, we're going to keep fishing with these things, and we're going to get you guys some footage on actually catching fish on these baits. The fish today were they were in a little bit of a bad mood. You know, couldn't hardly find any shallow. Couldn't find them deep. Finally had to get out in about 40 foot of water, and they were schooling, chasing bait in 40 foot of water. I said, okay, whatever, you know, we're gonna do it that way. Anyway, enough about that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this rope right here, and we're gonna teach some of the basic knots that you can tie for fishing. And the reason we're using a rope, this is not what I use, this is what Hot Shot uses to tie up his baits with. He likes that real heavy duty stuff. I mean, I think this is like, you know, 1,500 pound braid, something like that. He likes to use this stuff. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this stuff and I'm gonna show you how to tie different kinds of knots. And the reason I'm using the rope is because it'll be a lot easier to see how the loops and the knots are made better than with regular fishing line. You know, this is nice and big. It'll contrast real nice. So we're gonna get to that and show you guys a few knots. So, okay, this is our line. Remember, I don't have a hook that's big enough to use this line, so we're going to use these scissors to act as a hook. Either one of these holes will be the hook eye. The first knot we're going to talk about is the clinch knot. This was the first knot that I learned how to tie years and years ago. What you do is you take your fishing line, you go through the eye of the hook, and you get you some slack in there. You want to get you a good tag so you got room to work. And the easiest way to do it is just to grab the 2 lines with your thumb and forefinger, and then just start taking the line, the tag end, around the main line there. And you want to do that about, you know, 5 or 6 times, however many times you think is good. Then you bring that tag in back through the loop down here. And at this point, you want to moisten this with either some spit, water, whatever you got. Spit works good. You just put it in your mouth, and then you just start cinching it down onto the hook eye, and it'll look something like that when you're done. And that's a good strong little knot. It's good for monofilament. It's about the best knot you can tie for mono. And once you get done, of course, you want to, you know, trim your tag in there. And that is the clinch knot. Alright, second knot we want to talk about is the improved clinch knot. I rarely use this one. This is also a good knot for monofilament. You can use it for fluorocarbon, but I wouldn't recommend it. I recommend using the Palomar, which we'll talk about in a minute.
But what you do on the improved clinch is similar to the regular clinch knot. Run your line through the eye of the hook, and then you're going to grab it down here. Get this line out of the way. Grab it down here, wrap it around 5 or 6 times, however many times you think you need to do it. Come through the loop you made down here, and then take it back through this loop here. And then wet it and work it back down onto your hook, like so. And that is the improved clinch knot. A little bit stronger than the regular clinch knot, but just because of that added little piece right there. Okay, the next knot we're going to tie is the Palomar. This is a really good knot for fluorocarbon. It's actually what I tie most often for fluorocarbon. But it takes a little more practice on this one because of what you have to do. And fluorocarbon being the stiff line that it is, it doesn't like to loop over on itself real well. So it takes a little more practice than a clinch knot or any of the other knots, in my opinion anyway. Once again, these little scissors are our hook. So what you want to do to start the Palomar knot is you pass the line through the hook eye and then you bring it back through. Now if your hook eye is big enough, you can take the fluorocarbon line and double it over on itself like that and then stick it through the hook eye. But you got to make sure that you've got plenty of line, because you've got to make a big overhand knot that's actually big enough to pass through the bait. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So we've got our line doubled over. I'm going to take it through and make a half hitch. Let me get this out of the way so you can see it. Half hitch. This rope is a little tough to work with. So you got your half hitch, and then you just want to pull it, and then you're going to pass your hook or your bait through this loop right here. Just like so. Now this is going to be a little different than line. When you get your line, you wet it. You wet all that tangled mess right there, and you pull both lines, and it actually tightens itself up. This rope is not going to let me do that, so I'm going to have to work it a little bit at a time to get it to work out here. So this line actually comes up and over. And as you tighten it, the knot will end up looking something like that. And then you trim your tag in and you're done. Okay, this next knot is a knot I like to tie on my jigs. I learned it from G-Man, Gerald Swindle, and he called it a double shendo around the barn, through the woods, something knot. It's not hard to tie, but it's a good strong knot for when you're putting a lot of pressure on your baits, when you're really snapping that hook set, and you need a knot that's going to hold up well. What you do is just like the Palomar knot. You double it over, pass it through the eye of the hook. Make sure you got a lot of line to work with. This may not be enough for this rope. Let me get a little more here. My hook back up here. I'm sorry that those scissors are clacking around. I know it's noisy. Okay, so once again, what we're going to do is we're going to do an overhand knot just like this. And when I'm throwing this on braid, it's real loose and limp, easy to work with. So you have this, and you're going to take this loop. This is really tough. I might have to just get some braid out and show you this one. And you loop that around. I usually go about 6 or 7 times. And then you take this tag in and you pass it back through this loop up here. Wowzers. Yeah, that's a tangled mess right there. That actually is a lot cleaner on your on your fishing line and everything else. But eventually this is going to slide down and form a nice tough knot right there. And you're going to have actually 3 tag ends on this one. You're going to have your long one here, and then you're going to have to cut both lines on that loop right there. But that's a good strong knot to use for jigs, big worms, things like that. When you're, especially when you're fishing through cover, like trees or rocks, that'll really hold up well. And that is called the double shindo, by the best of my knowledge. Now this knot I learned from Hot Shot. He calls it the BBK. I'll let him tell you what BBK stands for. It closely resembles the Berkeley knot, and this is a really easy knot to tie, and it's a good strong knot as well. I've been tying this on my jigs somewhat lately, and it holds up just as good as the double shindo. And this one's pretty easy to tie. Once again, here's our little bait. I'm going to go the other direction. Hang on. It's a little easier to do for right-handers. If you're a lefty, you might want to start on the other side. Pass it through the eye of the hook. Get you plenty of line. Okay, and you're going to hold it up in the air like this. I like to grab the line with my fingers to keep this main line out of the way. Let me grab some more slack here. Okay, you let the bait dangle, and you grab the tag in with your index finger, and you're going to go around and you're going to make a loop with it. And then you're going to pass the tag in around both lines about 5 or 6 times. Take it back up through that loop you had at your finger. Wet it. Tighten it up. And then this whole thing will slide down. And then you can pull your main line to tighten it. Cut your tag in. And that's it. That's the BBK. Okay, for joining 2 lines together, whether it be braid to a mono or fluorocarbon leader, or mono to fluorocarbon, whatever. The first knot that I like to use is a uni to uni, and this one's a little bit tough to tie, especially out on the water. But what you're going to do is you're going to lay your 2 main lines out like so. Make sure you've got plenty of line between the 2, and make a little loop right here. And then you're going to take this line over. You can go over it or under it, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to pass that tag end through your loop 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, however many you want. And then just tighten it down a little bit. Just enough so where the knot won't untie itself. And the reason we do that is because we're going to tighten it up in a minute. Now, take the other side and do the same exact thing. Make you another loop. Go over or under, either way. Another 5 or 6 times around here. And then tighten that one down. Okay? And when you get them finished, you pull the 2 main lines, and then you cinch them, and that forms your knot. And you'll know when you've got it tight enough, because these tag ends will be sticking out straight in line with the main line. When you start to tighten it, they will actually stick out like this, and that's how you know you got it tight enough. Once you're done, clip the 2 tag ends, and that's your uni to uni knot. Alright, the last knot we're going to talk about is the Albright Special, or some variant of it. This is just the way I tie it. I use this knot a lot when I'm tying a leader on. This is a real thin knot. A uni to uni is kind of a thick knot, and if it passes through the guides, which most of the time my leaders do, it kind of causes some casting issues. So this Albright Special is a little bit thinner than the uni to uni, and in my opinion, it's a lot easier to tie. I can tie an Albright Special in about 1/3 of the time as I can tie a uni to uni. But what you're going to do is I like to take my leader material, whether it be monofilament or fluorocarbon, and make a loop in it. It's just a little bit easier to mess with the braid in the tying than it is your leader material. So I'll make a loop, I'll grab it in my hand, and I'll take my braid and I'll go up underneath. So through the bottom of that loop. And then I will grab the braid and I will pinch it with my pinky up against that loop. And then I'm going to take this line, which is the braid, and I'm going to go around that loop, both sides of that loop, about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 times, however many you want. And then you take your pinky out of that loop and then send your tag in through the top. Remember, we came from the bottom the first time, we're going through the top this time. Okay, and then once you get that, you wet it, you pull it down, and it makes a nice thin knot, and that is the Albright Special.
Well, that does it for this episode. Those are the basic knots you can use for any of your fishing applications. Some of them are going to be a little tough to figure out at first. It's hard to get them fingers to agree with you sometimes. Some of them are really hard to tie in the wind, the Palomar knot being one of them. I have a really hard time tying that one in the wind sometimes. But, basically if the wind's blowing in your face and you're trying to tie a knot, just turn around 180 degrees. Let that wind hit you back and protect that line from the wind with your body, and it gets a little easier to tie. But if you got any questions about the knots we showed you today, or any other suggestions you have for future episodes, just let me know. Shoot me a direct message or an email, whatever you want to do to get in touch with me. And thanks for watching.